Hello everyone, this is part 8 of What If Naruto Awakened New Skills, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. The next morning they all got up feeling physically refreshed. Naruto was in slightly higher spirits than he had been the night before, but Tsunade, Shizune and Hinata were still trying to come to terms with everything that had happened yesterday. They had found that Naruto had done two things that most would consider completely impossible. He had survived so much and then had done something that no one would have even believed possible. The whisker marks that had once adorned his cheeks were a signal of that. They showed that he was carrying the QB, and with them gone it was obvious that the QB was too. They met at the front desk and checked out and started on their way. The trip back to Konoha was mostly uneventful. A couple of bandits had tried to attack them, but after seeing Tsunade and Jiraiya they had quickly fled. They arrived in Konoha a day later with 5 days left to complete the mission and 9 left before the last part of the Chunin exams. As they walked towards the gate, one of the Chunin on guard came out to see who they were. "Who's there? State your names and reason for coming to Konoha," he said as commandingly as he could. Jiraiya of the Sannin returning from a mission with Naruto Uzumaki and Hinata Hyuga. "We have Tsunade of the Sannin and her assistant Shizune with us," said Jiraiya. As soon as he'd finished, the Chunin ran over to the guard booth and reached over to push a button. As soon as he pushed it, two Anbu appeared. "What's the problem?" asked the Anbu wearing a dog mask. The Chunin just pointed to the group. The Anbu turned to look and immediately both Anbu were on one knee. Then the Anbu wearing the tiger mask spoke. "Jiraiya of the Sannin, Tsunade of the Sannin and Naruto Uzumaki, your presence is required in the Hokage's office immediately. You are to come with us," he said. "Lead the way," said Jiraiya. As the group walked through the village, instead of the usual cold, hateful stares that Naruto got as the villagers looked at him, they instead turned pale. A few even fainted. He couldn't understand why. He didn't have the whisker marks, so what, he was still the same person, so what difference should it make to them? But still he was glad. It was a pleasant change from the stares of hatred. They walked into the Hokage's tower and were led straight into the Hokage's office. The same thing was happening though. Instead of the hateful stares, everyone that saw Naruto paled. As they walked through the door they saw the third standing behind the desk staring out of the window, but there was something strange. His chair was also facing towards the window and someone with a black hood on was sitting in it. Once Shizune had closed the door, the third turned round and paled a little when he saw Naruto. "Naruto, how have you gotten rid of the whisker marks? Please tell me it's not just a henge," said the third, his voice a little shaky. "No, it's not a henge. I merged with and destroyed the QB," replied Naruto. Then the other person, who they still couldn't see, spoke. "Well, now, I think this is going to take a long time to explain, and I really want to hear this, son, so why don't you all grab a seat and you can explain it to me," said a light adult male voice. As soon as they heard it, both Tsunade and Jiraiya paled. Minato," stuttered Jiraiya. "It couldn't really be him, could it?" thought the Toad Sannin. The chair slowly swiveled round to reveal Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. "Yes, Jiraiya-sensei, it's good to see you again. Tsunade, I'm glad you've finally come back to Konoha, and Naruto, my son, I look forward to getting to know you," said Minato. Naruto was surprised. Could this possibly the man that sealed the QB inside of him? The legendary yellow flash of Konoha? The fourth Hokage? If so, then why did he keep calling him son? It didn't make sense. "Why do you keep calling me son?" asked Naruto. The fourth slowly pulled down his hood to reveal a mass of yellow hair and a face that looked almost identical except a little older to Naruto's own. "Because Naruto, that's what you are, my son. Your mother's name was Kushina Uzumaki. The decision was made that since your mother didn't have any enemies outside of Konoha and I knew they would all respect my final wishes, you would take on your mother's maiden name so that at least your only concern would be people from this village and most would be civilians, rather than the Anbu of other nations that would be sent to KU to get revenge on me," explained Minato. Naruto had long since come to terms with having to have QB sealed within him. He was the only child in his age group born within week either side of the Cubus attack, and since it had to be a newborn that left only him, he now knew that the man who sealed it within him would not have asked the village for the child when he had one of his own. "Now though, Naruto, it's up to you as to whether you keep your mother's name or if you want to take my name, which is Namikaze," said Minato. Naruto couldn't believe it. He finally knew one of his parents and he was the son of a Hokage. Not that that was going to stop him from aiming for his dream to become the greatest Hokage ever. Then a couple of things came to mind. Has your return to Konoha been announced yet, Dad? That was a new experience and one he was going to have to get used to. Not yet. Sarutobi thought it best if he announced my return and that you were my son at the same time, replied Minato. Hey old man, are the next part of the Chunin exams going ahead as planned? Naruto asked Sarutobi. Yes, why? He asked, curious as to what was going round in Naruto's brain. He really was the most unpredictable ninja that Konoha had ever seen. Both Minato and Kushina had been able to pull a surprise every now and again, but Naruto seemed to have picked it up from both of them and then multiplied it. Well, can you change the form so that the board shows my name as Naruto Namikaze for the last part? He asked. It was Minato who first caught onto Naruto's thought pattern and he liked it. Brilliant, Naruto. We announce my return without telling them you're my son, and then in the Chunin exam it comes up on the board, leaving everyone stunned and revealing you to be my son, he said with a grin matching Naruto's own foxy grin that he got when he realized his father had already caught onto the idea. After Minato explained Naruto's plan, everyone loved the idea and it was quickly decided that that was what they'd do. The next couple of hours were spent in the Hokage's office with Naruto, Hinata, Tsunade, Shizune and Jiraiya explaining what had happened and why Naruto no longer had the whisker marks. I think it's time you explain to them how you came back from the S now, Minato, said Sarutobi. Yes, I suppose I should. Around 4 weeks ago Naruto's team was sent on a C rank mission. The mission was a cover by a group of men I left to allow me to do this. They used technology Orochimaru had developed and discarded. When Naruto's team arrived they took them all out, leaving him alive of course, and took Naruto. Over the course of the next 2 weeks they extracted a vial of my bee that had been hidden in Naruto's body. They used it along with the technology to rapidly regrow me a body. When I sealed the QB in Naruto, the Shinigami was going to take my soul as payment. He paused to collect his thoughts. As he was withdrawing, 3 Jonin already near death with no chance of survival asked that if they offered their 3 souls in place could mine be spared. The Shinigami agreed but also said my body could not live, so I sealed my own soul in a very powerful seal within Naruto's body. Neither he nor the QB could tell I was there or access my chakra. Once my body was completely regrown they used a complex jutsu to remove my soul from Naruto and place it within my new body. It took around 2 weeks to complete my body and transfer my soul in. Naruto was then carefully taken to a hidden area of the village to sleep off the effects of the drugs before returning to Konoha, and I understand on the way he managed to unlock his mother's Kekkei Genkai, he explained. Yeah, I did. Do I have a Kekkei Genkai from your side of the family? Asked Naruto. Yes, there are 2 parts to it. One is what caused you trouble in the academy, the other won't activate until you hit about 14 feet, replied Minato. What do you mean it caused me trouble in the academy? Asked Naruto. He was very confused by this. Try and make a standard illusion right now, said Minato. Naruto did as he was told and the illusion was exactly the same as in the academy. He created 2 but they had no color and couldn't even get off the floor. You can never do an illusion because you have far too much chakra. In order for someone to master illusions they need less chakra than a Chunin. Since our bloodline gives us more chakra than a genin when we're born, by the time we get to the academy we have as much chakra as most jonin and thus can't do the jutsu. Because we don't have enough control over it we put too much in and it fails. It's one of the worst techniques to be taught, but the academy bases its teaching around the majority, which means we come up short. I passed because it was known that my bloodline prevented me from doing it. I understand you passed by being betrayed and learning the shadow clone technique. I happen to know a modification to that technique that only our family has enough chakra to do. I'll teach it to you later this week, explained Minato. Great, thanks Dad, said Naruto. So tell me, Naruto, who is the young Hyuga that seems to be quite fond of you? Asked Minato. This is Hinata, the eldest of the Hyuga main branch. She's my girlfriend, said Naruto as he and Hinata blushed lightly. A pleasure to meet you, Hinata, said Minato, knowing that Hashi would be very pleased to hear that if he didn't already know. Hey Sarutobi, where's Gaara these days? Asked Naruto. Him and his brother and sister usually train in teamwork on Training Ground 5. They were each powerful but lacked the ability to work as a team, but that changed with Gaara's attitude thanks to you, and I have to say they're quite the team. Since Kankuro is a close-range specialist and Temari is a long-range specialist, Gaara fills in wherever he is needed as he can attack with long, medium and short-range techniques as well as having some excellent defensive skills, replied Sarutobi. Alright, well I think me and Hinata will go and talk to him. I want to tell him about what happened to me and how I got rid of the Kyuubi. I just hope that he can do it. Later, Dad, said Naruto before pulling Hinata close to him and just disappearing, leaving all 5 adults stunned. Did he just do what I think he did? Asked Sarutobi. No, he didn't, but I can't believe he not only managed to find that technique in the Kyuubi's memories but also use it, replied Minato. What are talking about, Minato? Asked Jiraiya, looking hard at his old student. Minato rested his elbows on the desk in front of him and clasped his hands together under his chin. My family has a long history with the Kyuubi. Around 300 years ago he attacked a village where my family was one of the clans of at the time. My ancestors knew they could not defeat the Kyuubi in all-out battle, so instead the clan head talked to it and was able to reason with it enough that he offered it an agreement. The head would play a game against the Kyuubi. It could be any game the Kyuubi chose as long as if he didn't know the rules he was given time to learn them. If he won, the Kyuubi would leave the village in peace. If he lost, the Kyuubi could do what he liked. They played a game that I don't even know the name of. It didn't have a translation. The first game allowed the clan head to learn the rules. It lasted around half an hour, then the really game started. Minato paused and leaned back in his chair before continuing. The game lasted for several days and it ended in a draw, but my family had intrigued the Kyuubi, so it stayed in its humanoid form and stayed in the clan compound learning about them. It would seem he also figured out how a number of their techniques worked. If I'm right, he improved on that one a lot. It's the predecessor to the Leaping Thunder God technique. Thunder God is actually part of the bloodline that developed from continual use of the technique you just witnessed and creates a yellow flash, hence the nickname. Originally it required 7 hand signs and would then create a L in time and space that you would have to step through. If my guess is right though, the Kyuubi found a way to do it without using hand signs and without moving, he explained. Every other face in the room had a single expression on it, shock. Naruto and Hinata arrived at Training Ground 5 to see Gaara, Temari and Kankuro facing off against Shikamaru, Ino and Choji. They had put them in a difficult position with the sun at their side to minimize Shikamaru's shadow. Gaara and Temari had created large trenches to keep Choji from rolling at them, and Kankuro's puppets kept Ino moving, stopping her from having the time needed to use her mind control techniques. Shikamaru was quickly analyzing the battle and suddenly raised his hand. We surrender, you win, well done, he said smiling. Hey guys, good work, said Naruto smiling as he and Hinata walked up to the two groups. Hello Naruto, when did you get back? Asked Gaara, surprising his siblings at how friendly he seemed to be towards Naruto. A few hours ago, I actually came to talk to you. I've found a way to get rid of the demon in you without KU, he said. Immediately Temari and Kankuro got ready to attack him for telling the others Gaara's secret. Shikamaru noticed this and decided to say something to them before Naruto wiped the floor with them. Relax, Naruto has the Kyuubi sealed within him. That doesn't affect how any of us see him. We all know if he was the demon, there is no way he could have pulled of all those practical jokes. Just because Gaara isn't the friendliest of people doesn't mean he is a demon. I know Naruto didn't have an easy time growing up, and I can't see Gaara's being any better, he said as Choji and Ino came and stood next to him before looking over to Naruto. They immediately noticed two things. First was that Naruto had on different clothes and, in Ino's eyes at least, looked almost as hot as Sasuke, and also that he no longer had whisker marks on his cheeks. Naruto, what's happened to your whisker marks? Asked Choji. It was then that Temari and Kankuro also took a better look at him. They noticed the missing whisker marks that had defined him as the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi. Temari also noted that in his new clothes he was very hot, and she found herself envying Hinata, who was standing next to him with her arm round his waist and his arm round her waist. That's what I came to speak to Gaara about, but I might as well tell you all. Shinju, could you go and tell your father that I'd like to come round and talk to him later, please? He said. He then kissed Hinata lightly on the lips, earning envious looks from both Temari and Ino. Okay Naruto, replied Hinata before running off towards the Hyuga compound. The group then sat down and Naruto then spent around an hour and a half explaining what had happened to him and why his whisker marks were gone. After about 45 minutes, Hinata had returned and sat down next to him. He had wrapped his arm around her as she leaned against his shoulder, again earning envious looks from both Temari and Ino, which this time did not go unnoticed, but Naruto didn't care. Sakura would keep Ino in line for him and Gaara would keep his sister in line. Around an hour after he had finished explaining everything to the group, Naruto and Hinata finished talking to them, went and got something to eat at Ichirakis and moved on to the Hyuga compound. When they arrived, they spoke with Hashi and collected the items they'd had sent ahead. Hinata then went upstairs to her room and got changed whilst Naruto and Hashi talked. Hashi was very impressed with the camouflage styles and said he would suggest it to the council. He asked Naruto if he minded if he didn't tell the council where he got the idea. Naruto replied that he should tell them in a couple of weeks and tell them exactly where he got the idea. When Hashi said that they would never accept it if it came from him and asked why he should wait a couple of weeks, Naruto just replied that it would be worth the wait for him to find out. After about 20 minutes, Hinata came back down wearing a black t-shirt with the words, "I'm hot, but keep looking at these and my boyfriend will KU," written in white on it, and a pair of black baggy jeans. Hashi's mouth dropped and his eyes went wide. Naruto had come prepared expecting an interesting reaction and quickly whipped out a camera and took a picture of the dumbstruck Hyuga head. When Hashi came back to his senses after about 5 minutes, he was originally going to kick Naruto 6 ways to Sunday and back again. Then when he thought about it for a moment, he realized two things. The first was that the t-shirt actually had a true statement on it, and the second was that the only way Hinata could wear a t-shirt like that was if Naruto had had a huge effect on her confidence, neither of which he could actually complain at, so he let it go. Over the next week a lot happened. Naruto's name was secretly changed on the forms and the people doing it were told that if they didn't keep quiet about it they would find themselves out of a job and behind bars for breaking the personal information privacy lease they signed when they started work, and considered traitors for putting a member of Konoha in unnecessary danger. Minato's return and reinstatement as the fourth Hokage was announced, and just in case any of the village were skeptical, as he figured they might be, the entire council, including Danzo, who everyone knew was against the third, backed him up. Danzo had respect for Minato as it was discovered by Naruto that Minato was the reason he was badly maimed but alive rather than badly maimed, and he also had something of an understanding with Minato whereby whilst neither liked the other's policies, as long as each met certain requirements, then they would form a united front whenever need against the council on something that didn't affect the other. Danzo had also said to Naruto privately that whilst he openly wanted Naruto to be a part of Root, if he had really wanted him to be, there was a lot more he could have done to get him there. He just did the minimum he needed to make the council think he was more with them than with Sarutobi. According to Danzo, he had even had some of Root's special civilians, shinobi, training to blend into the crowds, watch him, and had even doubled the number in the village on his birthday. They had something of a gift for spiking drinks to the point that people couldn't even stand, never mind walk. Naruto had spoken with Hashi, and after seeing how much her gentle fist skills had improved whilst she'd been away and learning that she had also mastered the Rasengan, agreed that Naruto should also learn the gentle fist style, and if the council tried to do something, Hashi said he would do something about them. He knew it wouldn't be that simple, but he also knew that if they tried to hurt Naruto they were in for a world of hurt, but if they tried to hurt Hinata only God could help them. He had also learned that the altered Byakugan was called Junkagen. He also decided that the entire council would go to the Chunin final exams, so they could see the progress of Neji, was the reason he gave, but he had long known about Naruto being Minato's son but could do nothing to help him because of the council. Since Naruto had gotten with Hinata, though, it made it easier because it became a case of, to assist him in protecting the clan heir, regardless of whether the elders thought they would arrange Hinata's marriage or not, since an agreement between Minato and Hashi had been formed. After Minato found out that Kushina would be having a boy and Hashi found out that Tansei, I can't find a reference to Hinata's mother's name, so I decided to use this as it means graceful, was having a girl, that they would form an official arranged marriage agreement. That stated should the children at any point become a couple that they would be unable to have a marriage to another person even if they were to separate. They also made sure to formalize it with Sarutobi to ensure that no matter what happened, as long as the two got together, then Hinata would be safe. The original plan had been to have the two grow up together in the hope that they would develop the relationship on their own, but because of the attack that didn't happen, Chance had decided they would be together anyway and Hinata was safe. After all, the first had made sure to put a law in place when Konoha was founded that said that the clan head could create an arranged marriage without the consent of the rest of the clan, and this marriage and its formal written conditions would be the binding agreement to aid fathers in protecting the daughters from bad marriages created solely for the furtherment of the clan by the clan council. Kushina had happened across it whilst researching old laws in the library, trying to find one that would help protect her from having to take Minato's last name and put them both as well as Naruto in danger. She had found that if a ninja had earned a reputation in war that caused him to be a regular target of her attempts, then the wife and children, to protect all parties involved, could keep the maiden name of the wife. When she told Hashi and Minato, they decided that it would be for the best if the children were to at least be given the opportunity to form a relationship. If it failed, they would explain the arranged marriage to them and ask them to give it a shot for a few months, and as long as both children agreed, then Hinata would still be safe. Naruto trained hard with Hinata and also with Team 7. He also noticed that Sasuke was becoming frustrated. Sakura was being taught by Tsunade, Jiraiya and Minato both taught himself, and Kakashi couldn't teach him what he needed to know. He wasn't getting any stronger, and despite Naruto having gained an insane jump in skill already, he was still becoming stronger. It became more apparent in their team training sessions where he would tire first because he didn't have the reserves of Naruto or the control of Sakura. He knew that he wasn't a match for Itachi, and he felt that he wasn't advancing quick enough. Naruto did manage to persuade him that as long as he did the last part of the Chunin exams, it would be possible for Kakashi and the other sensei to have a really good idea of what he needed to work on and how they would be best to teach him what he needed to get stronger. The group that had successfully passed the preliminary round were assembled in the Colosseum for the finals. Gaara, Temari and Kankuro stood talking to Naruto and Shikamaru. Sasuke sat brooding. Shino stood betraying nothing. Neji waited patiently. The Rain Ninja was meditating and the Rock Ninja stared daggers at everyone. He hated the leaf, and now it appeared that almost all that were left were leaf. He was sure that there had been a sound, a water and 3 from Suna, but he couldn't remember what the 3 from Suna looked like. Hayate Gecko appeared in front of the Hokage's private booth. Naruto quickly glanced up and flashed a small smile, which the fourth returned, just as a father would to his son. Only Shikamaru was paying enough attention to see the smile. It got his curiosity, but he decided to wait till after the matches. I'm Hayate Gecko, proctor for the Chunin exam finals. The decision has been made that with the disqualification of the Sound Village and therefore Dosu Kinuta and with Amaya Shimane of the Mist Village having decided to retire from being a ninja and become a civilian, the matchups for the final Chunin exam will be reselected at random by computer. As he finished, 2 boards on the wall behind him moved down to reveal LCD screens already flashing through names in yellow. After 20 seconds, the board finally flashed up with 2 names: Gaara no Sabaku vs. Isamu Miyazaki. Hayate looked at the board and then turned to the Genin. The first match will be between Gaara no Sabaku of Konoha and Isamu Miyazaki of Iwa. All other participants are to leave the arena and wait in the stands, said the proctor. Naruto turned to Gaara. Give him hell, but try leave him alive. They hate Konoha, so it's more humiliating to send them back alive after losing to one of us than to K them, he said with a smirk. Gaara smirked when he heard this. He still had no qualms with K, but humiliation was even more fun. He decided it would be even better if he could get the Rock Ninja to give up, and he thought he might just have the plan to do it. The rest of the Genin were in the stands watching. Naruto had gone to sit next to Hinata and Kiba. The Hyuga elders noticed but knew it wasn't the time to bring it up. The rest went to the main waiting area. Now then, are you both ready? Asked Hayate. After receiving a firm nod from both, he proceeded. The match between Gaara of Konoha and Isamu of Iwa. Begin, he said, bringing his arm down and then jumping out the way. The Rock Ninja quickly started flashing through hand signs, whilst Gaara just stood there with his sand slowly seeping out of the gourd on his back. As the Rock Ninja ended his sequence, he shouted, Earth style, ground wave burial. He s his hands on the floor and the floor slowly started to rise up. It traveled towards Gaara like an ocean wave and crashed over the top of him. Everyone in the arena was shocked, that is except Naruto, Sasuke, Neji, Hinata, Temari and Kankuro. Naruto and Sasuke both had their Sharingan active. Neji and Hinata had their Junkagen active, and Temari and Kankuro just knew their little brother. He was toying with his opponent. The ground where Gaara had been standing slowly spread upwards and a ball of sand could be seen coming out of the ground. Is that the best you've got? asked Gaara in a monotone voice, opening the sand ball to reveal his face. If this was it, he was going to get very bored very quickly, and it wasn't going to take long. Just as he expected, the rock ninja charged at him, drawing a kunai. He lowered the sand into its free-flowing form and used it to block the attacks, but every time he did, he let a little bit of his sand slip into his opponent's clothes. After around 5 minutes of the rock ninja constantly attacking, he lunged at Gaara and then suddenly fell down, clutching his groin. Gaara just stepped out of the way of the falling ninja and smirked. "I suggest you give up or you'll lose 3 very valuable friends," said Gaara, again using a monotone voice. But for the few that knew to look for it, there was a glint of amusement in his eyes. The rock ninja slowly raised a hand from his and spoke in a voice slightly higher than his normal one. "I surrender," he said, before passing out from relief as Gaara's sand retreated from his most valuable of areas. Everyone was shocked. Even Temari and Kankuro couldn't work out what had happened. Naruto, however, winced at the thought but smiled at Gaara's method. Hinata saw the flinch and the smile and got really curious. "Naruto, what did he do?" she asked. Naruto contemplated for a moment before answering. Every time the rock ninja attacked the sand with his hands or feet, Gaara sent a small amount of sand into his clothes. Not enough to be noticed, but after a while it built up and gathered between his legs, at which point Gaara basically used a much smaller version of his desert funeral on the guys, slowly crushing them to get the ninja to surrender. "It was crude but very effective and very well planned," he replied. Kiba winced hard when he heard Gaara's method. "The winner of this match by surrender is Gaara no Sabaku of Konoha," said Hayate. Gaara moved to the stands whilst the rock ninja moved over to the medic stand. To ensure his family jewels were still usable, as they did, the board started flashing through the remaining names again, and Naruto used the same technique as he'd used to leave the Hokage's office, much to the surprise of the Hyuga elder that had been watching him sit next to Hinata with hate in his eyes. When he saw him use the technique, he thought, maybe he isn't so bad after all. "Crude but effective, my friend," said Naruto, appearing next to Gaara, smiling. Gaara looked at him and saw the glint in his eye. He smiled, seeing his first and best friend's approval and happiness in his methods. "I'm glad you liked it. When you told me about sending him back humiliated, I thought, what's more humiliating than returning alive? Returning alive without a scratch after surrendering, and the best way to do that to a guy is to hit him where it hurts," he replied with a slightly sadistic tinge to his smile. "You don't grow up having to stay alive without starting to gain at least a little pleasure from causing pain." Just then the next 2 names flipped up on the board. Hayate looked at the names and then turned to the genin. "Kankuro no Sabaku, and Shino Aberame, please come to the arena for your match," said Hayate. Kankuro was already well aware of Shino's skills, and his bugs feeding on chakra meant trouble for him. He couldn't win. They both jumped into the center of the arena and Kankuro immediately spoke. "There's no point in having this match. It's avoidable and I already know I can't win, so I concede," he said, surprising the stadium. The Kage and Daimyo watching were disappointed at not seeing him fight. But all understood the importance of surrendering early. They were both Leaf Shinobi, so why should they fight if one already knew he couldn't win? It makes more sense to allow the other to save his strength. As you would for any avoidable attack, you flee to save your strength for when you have no choice. They decided that a few may be like that, and if so, they would hold exhibition matches at the end to be able to see them fight. Again the board started flashing through names, and around 25 seconds later the second name stopped spinning and Hayate looked confused for a moment before announcing the names. "Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Namikaze, please come to the arena for your match," said the proctor. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.